Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are continuing maintenance work on the Jetta. We are going to be replacing the plastic warped valve cover that's on it right now. And while we're there, we might as well change the oil because it's due. So stick around, I'll show you how I do it. Alright guys, and just to give you a little background on the valve cover situation here. So I've actually replaced the valve cover gasket on this car back in 2016. So at about the 5-year mark of age of this car, it started leaking. I replaced it then and no issue since then. But recently when I had it off to do some AC work, I saw that there was some oil puddling in one of the bolt heads. And I thought that was weird, maybe it got loose or whatever. So I went ahead and just tightened it, but I said I'm gonna keep an eye on this one to make sure. So I tightened it, I cleaned the area. But recently, when I took it off, I saw that there was oil in there again. So I knew at that point that this valve cover assembly, being plastic and being 13 years old, it finally warped. And so now it can't hold its shape. It's not square anymore. So I'm gonna replace it now with a new valve cover assembly. And then also the oil is about 1.5 years old. In that 1.5 years, the car has been driven just under 4,000 miles. Again, the car doesn't get driven that much, but time also puts wear and tear on the oil. So it's time to replace it regardless of the miles. All right, so here's what we're gonna be using. Of course, my favorite oil here, Liqui Moly Molygen 5W40, never fails, awesome stuff. This oil filter from Kengst, and FCP does supply you with a new drain plug and crush ring. I wanted to go ahead and replace the oil filler cap, which is not part of the valve cover, is off to the side. But I said, you know what, it's the same age as this. There's a rubber seal on the inside. Let's just go ahead and replace it. This was dirt cheap, so why not replace it, right? And then for the valve cover assembly, I went for this Vico unit. It looks great. It does include the gasket, as you can see. So this is just ready to install. All right, so the first step is that we're going to remove this air filter assembly. That will give us the access to the valve cover assembly below it. What we have to do now in order to get the ignition coils out is we first have to deal with the harness. You see here that it routes over from this side and it wraps around towards the front here. So what we're going to do is that we're actually going to pull all the ignitions up slightly, and then we'll be able to slide off the connectors outside. You can't do it here because it doesn't give you enough space to slide them back with the ignition coils all the way down. You'll see what I mean. All right, now you see what I mean by having them up. With them up in the air, you have enough space to slide out the connectors. So let's do that now. You're going to knock out all 5 of them at the same time. Now the harness is out of the way. Now you can go ahead and pull off your ignition coils. I want to show you guys the bolt that I was talking about. Do you see this right here between 1 and 2? Come on, focus on that. You see that oil there? That's what I meant. It's not leaking anywhere in the perimeter, but that bolt just keeps leaking. So that's how I made the determination that this valve cover assembly is just warped. You see the other ones are nice and dry. It's just that one there. The next step is to remove the crankcase vent line, which is this one that's coming out here. Notice that you have a pressure clip thing. You just have to grab at the bottom and top and that pulls off. But you have these 2 clamps. These release with a flathead. It's very easy, just be gentle with them. And of course the line, don't flex it too much because you don't want to break it. Also, let's pull this to the front of the cap here, so that way you have easy access to the bolts for the cover here. All right guys, we're finally here. We're ready to go ahead and remove the valve cover assembly. So all I'm gonna do now is go around all the bolts, knock them loose, and then I'm gonna use the electric ratchet just to buzz them all out. These are captive bolts. They're not supposed to come out. You just wanna make sure that they're loose from the head. That's it. All these bolts are T30. T30. Okay, all the bolts are now loose, so there's nothing holding this on now. All you need to do is give it a small little tap and it should release. I would tell you that if you are reusing this, I would highly suggest to use something soft like a rubber mallet and just go light tapping around it. This one, I can go crazy on it if I wanted to, because I have a new one sitting right there, right? So, but I'm still gonna show you guys the proper way of how to do it. Okay, still caught somewhere. Oh, there you go. All right, so here's the old one. Look at where all the oil slick is on that bolt there. But, I mean, this one, I actually cleaned it up, but there was oil, like an oil film at the outlet of this diaphragm housing. So that's another sign that this is going out as well. So it was only a matter of time before I was gonna have like engine shutting off, acting up, random codes, and it's because of this here. So that's another reason why I'm doing it, because this was on its way out. And here's the new one. Every time you crack open your engine, you should definitely take a look at your cam journals just to make sure that there's no crazy scoring or anything, because that would be a sign that you have contaminated oil or a very low quality oil filter that's not catching anything. All these lobes look great. Now remember, this has 90,000 miles. This engine just has a nice golden coating on it. There is not a speck of varnish anywhere on this thing. I'm very happy with this. Goes to show you, if you change your oil frequently and you use quality oil, this is what you end up with. 90,000 miles and this engine is clean as can be. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go around and clean all the mating surfaces of the new gasket, and then this is ready to receive the new valve cover. As you're cleaning mating surfaces, you should definitely do a second pass or even a third pass. Basically keep cleaning until your rag comes out clean. You want to make sure that is as clean as can be. All right, I just wanted you guys to get a close-up on how clean the mating surfaces are. Some of the metal is stained, especially you see there inside the tubes, and sometimes you have a little bit of lint, but that's not going to do anything. You always want it to take off as much as you can though. This is now nice and shiny. Look at that. You see that reflection there? That is clean. All right, here we go with the new one. Now, once you put it in place, you want to make sure you go ahead and just start bringing down the bolts, and we'll worry about final tightening later. Right now, you just want to make sure it's in place. You just want to get a few of the bolts started, because what can happen is that if you tighten down one bolt all the way down, the other ones may not line up. And so you want to make sure you start all of them. Once you are verified that all of them are catching thread, then you can go ahead and start driving them down. Until then, do not do final tightening. Now I'm going to use the electric ratchet, but I'm not going to tighten it. I'm just bringing down the bolts all the way. I'm starting from the center and working my way out. Right now, I'm not using a pattern. I'm just, again, bringing it down slowly in steps. Okay, this is where we do the proper tightening. The spec is 10 Newton meter. Now 10 Newton meter in foot-pound is 7.3 foot-pound. Most of the foot-pound torque wrenches cannot go that low. They typically start at like 20 or 25. So you have to use a smaller torque wrench that uses inch-pound. In inch-pound, it's 88.5 inch-pound. That's not all that much torque. Experienced mechanics can typically do that by hand. 10 Newton meter is not that much. Like, you can do that with just your wrist. So just to give you an idea, this does not need to go all that tight. If you're not familiar with what 10 Newton meter feels like, I highly suggest you use a torque wrench. Man, this valve cover looks so good. All right, so now let's just go ahead and put our ignition cores back on. We'll put the engine cover back on with the air filter, and we're done. Now, just remember to go ahead and drop the harness in place first. and then bring in your crankcase vent line to hook it back up here. Let's let that settle for a little bit, then we're gonna top off whatever's left with the 1 liter there. All right, about half a liter and we're good to go.
Oh yeah.
Perfect. Well guys, there you have it. I hope that helps you, because you can see now that changing the valve cover on this 2.5 is actually extremely easy, very accessible. Anyone can do it. So I hope you guys take on the project and save yourself a whole lot of money. I'll have all the links below to the stuff that I use for your reference. So I hope it helps you. If it does, please give me a like, consider subscribing. And of course, I always say, more projects coming your way for the Jetta and the F10. Thank you so much.